everyone, welcome back to another draft video. My name is Cecilia Winters, and today we're going to be going over linebackers. So I heard your guys' feedback on the edge rusher video. I'm going to break this up into two videos for that reason. Hopefully it won't be as long because of that, but I am very excited about this linebacker class. I think that this is one of the better linebacker classes we've seen for a long time. It's better at the top than we've seen for a long time, and I think it is really deep. I think there are going to be guys that you can get in later rounds who can be immediate contributors, and I'm really excited. So I'm going to be going over the top 8 in this video, and please like and subscribe if you like what you've seen. If you are interested in more draft content, I'm going to be getting to a bunch of other positions pretty soon. And shout out to my members who saw this video early. They always get draft content early, and they get bonus content periodically as well. Starting at the top, we have Arvell Reese. For me, it was very, very close between the top two, Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, both Ohio State players. I cannot believe how many Ohio State players, especially on the defensive side, are top 10 players in this draft. It is unbelievable. Every time I turn on the tape to watch one of them, a different one would stand out. So much talent for the Buckeyes this year. But Arvell Reese, he was a high school state champion in Ohio, chose Ohio State over Penn State and Alabama. He was started out as a special teams player, but in 2024, he worked his way up to being a rotational linebacker in a very talented room, like I said. He had tremendous games in the championship run, particularly against Michigan and Northwestern. In 2025, he looks different. He's only 20 years old. He will be barely 21 when he plays his first NFL game. And these days, that matters a lot. While we have 26-year-olds declaring for the draft, it's very valuable to have somebody who is younger. And he was first team All Big Ten linebacker of the year. What jumps out about him to me is that he's very light on his feet, but he's not actually light. He runs downhill, he hits guys hard, and against Texas, he had this 4th down run stop in the first quarter, and he reads the gap the running back is going to, and he just gives him nothing. No second push, just a hard hit at the line for an immediate stop, and it was like, yeah, this sums up who he is. He is a hard-hitting linebacker who moves quickly. He is very effective as a quarterback spy. He has sideline-to-sideline speed. He can absolutely rush the passer. He does a great job disguising a delayed pass rush, prevents quarterbacks from escaping. He can cover slot receivers and mostly stay stride for stride with them, which I think is really important. I think, especially in this linebacker class, you get a lot of guys who are really good run stoppers and then kind of questionable in coverage. There's nothing questionable about Arvell Reese, and he's a great tackler, hard to escape him. He had 4 missed tackles in all of 2025. His real strength, though, to me is his versatility. And that is one of the most important things at the linebacker position. He can rush the passer. He can be an off-ball linebacker. He split his time between being kind of an edge rusher and an off-ball linebacker pretty evenly with the Buckeyes. At times, he overcommits on run-stopping efforts. It makes it kind of hard for him to disengage with stronger tackles. Sometimes he loses gap integrity because he's just trying to get to the ball carrier behind the line because he knows that he can. This also means he can be tricked by fakes. He can leave holes in coverage. There are questions about his coverage in general. He's only really been a starter for like a year, so there's not a whole lot of tape to reassure you, but I think he will be seen as a top 5 pick because the athleticism, it really is that rare, and that means at his young age he can be molded into a great linebacker, and if this is how good he is right now with this level of experience, you have to imagine in a couple years he has a potential to be one of the best linebackers in the NFL. So whoever takes him can't lean too much on him in coverage early on because schemes and route concepts are going to be significantly more advanced. He's going to be at a disadvantage early on. All linebackers are. I think the transition from college to NFL is really hard at the linebacker position. But if he figures it out in coverage, he's so athletic that he is just going to be an outstanding player. He's going to be seen as a top 5 pick. I don't love him as a top 5 pick. I think he makes more sense in the 6 to 10 range, but that is a small concern. I just think he needs to be taken by a team that has a plan for him and can afford to pass on some of the fantastic pass rushers that are going to be available. Next up, we have Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese's teammate at Ohio State, 6'4", 243 pounds. Every time I was watching Ohio State to watch Caleb Downs or Arvell Reese or one of these fantastic defensive players, Sonny Styles pretty much outshined them every single time. I keep going back and forth about who should be number 1. I think most people have Arvell Reese as a clear number 1. It's not clear to me. It's really not clear. I understand why people would put Sonny Styles first because he is just such a good, well-rounded linebacker. He was an Ohio native. His dad played for the Buckeyes. His dad won a Super Bowl with the Rams. 5-star recruit in high school, so this guy was just born to ball. The main thing to know about Styles is he was essentially made in a lab to be an NFL linebacker. He is unbelievably athletic. He's fast, he's strong, explosive, 6'4" with a wingspan that really reflects it. So his tackling range is huge. He outruns running backs and quarterbacks to the sideline. He covers for edge rushers who lose contain, and he disguised some of the issues up front that Ohio State had. He's incredibly decisive. He diagnoses run blocking schemes before they materialize. He gets into the backfield before being touched. In a sense, I think he is more pro-ready than Arvell Reese. I think Arvell Reese has a higher ceiling, but Sonny Styles is ready to be one of the best linebackers right away. And, there isn't a linebacker role that he can't fill. The versatility is such that I think defensive coordinators can look at him as a player they build their defense around. He's never surprised by screens, misdirections, checkdowns, anything. There are other linebackers in the class who can do everything he does. Most of them are bad in coverage. Sonny Styles is not bad in coverage. He is solid. He reads the quarterback, follows their eyes, and he started his college career as a safety, and it shows his ability to disrupt the ball in flight, track it. He can't necessarily cover the twitchiest receivers one-on-one, like the slot receivers, but it just doesn't get much better than him at his position. And I think, he's shown that he can rush the passer. He can deliver big hits. He's shown that he can dislodge the football. This is someone who will probably go top 15. I think teams have made a mistake if he even gets to number 10. I think it would make sense to me for him to go top 5. Probably not a reality with positional value. Just teams want edge rushers, teams want tackles, but he is absolutely worthy of any pick in this draft. I think he is a linebacker 1 on any team. He has all-pro potential, and I only have him below Arvell Reese because Reese's pass rush ability makes him more of an early impact player, like I said, and I think Sonny Styles will take a little more time to come online, but I actually think Sonny Styles is more likely to become an elite player. So after those two, I think it goes down a tier, right? Those are our top 10 picks, and looking at the next players, I do think they are first rounders, but they're not going to give you that elite impact. So next up, we have CJ Allen, played for Georgia, number 3, 6'1", 235 pounds. He was a Georgia native, had a basketball and track background, and he became a rotational player as a freshman in 2023, became a real starter in 2024, got 76 tackles and 1 interception. But in 2025, he took a big step forward. He led his team in tackles, led his team in sacks. Run defense is outstanding. He runs downhill with decisiveness. He beats blockers to the gap. He disengages from blocks really well, stacks and sheds well, good hand placement, good leverage. He does sometimes struggle against larger blockers, but that is kind of par for the course with linebackers. You just are a lot smaller than guards. And he doesn't always read what is happening fast enough to cover sideline to sideline. And, his play speed doesn't match his 40 time. I imagine, when we see him at the combine, we're going to go, whoa, where did this guy come from? But his play speed doesn't necessarily match that yet. I don't think he can flip his hips very well in coverage. He's often the target of mismatches with twitchier tight ends. But he rushes the passer really well. Not a lot of pass rush moves, but he bulldozes smaller blockers, and he's very persistent to the quarterback. And I think he's kind of your immediate floor raiser kind of player. But the splash plays aren't really there in coverage or pass rush just yet. His best plays right now are tackles for loss. Sometimes he gives up big rushing lanes by misreading what the running back is doing and rushing to the wrong gap, overextending, kind of being overly aggressive early on in the play instead of letting it develop. But the good news is he's experienced in an advanced defense at Georgia. The transition to NFL should be relatively smooth coming from that program. He's a great tackler, great run defender. He can hold his own in zone coverage. He's not going to be trusted in man-to-man situations for a long time. I would give him a very early day 2 grade, but I think the NFL is just in need of run defense right now, and he is likely going to go day 1 because of that, because that's just the reality. And I think that's the reality of this draft overall. There aren't 32 players in this draft with a first-round grade. That's true for most drafts. That's just the reality. Kind of in a similar tier, Jake Golday from Cincinnati. He's number 11, 6'4", 240 pounds. He was an unranked prospect, and he played for Central Arkansas for 3 seasons. Started as a defensive end and then converted to linebacker. And when he transferred to Cincinnati in 2024, he became an immediate starter. 58 tackles, 7 tackles for loss. He did have a few injuries that year, something to think about. He played well in 2025, but he had another injury that is, as far as I can tell, undisclosed. So there will be kind of an injury question here, although NFL teams will have a better sense of that than we do. Cincinnati kind of used him like a slot or nickel corner a lot, which didn't really play to his strength. I feel like, he is an incredibly athletic player. He was big, super fast for his size. His downhill power is immense. His burst and explosiveness are incredible, and if you are a running back receiving a check down, he's on your side of the field, you are going to take a huge hit. We saw that so many times this year. Because he was a defensive end, he has sophisticated pass rush moves. He could be used in that way, and I feel a little frustrated that Cincinnati didn't do that a whole lot. He can stack and shed blocks. He's technically sound in the run game. He gets pushed off balance at times. He has a higher center of gravity. His instincts aren't fantastic, but, like I said, he's kind of inexperienced at higher level football. You'd have to assume that can come with time, come with more coaching. His coverage is solid, but not amazing. He tends to cover his assigned area and not adjust to the threat that materializes in front of him, which I think is a weakness that NFL coordinators can really exploit. Not the best at reading the quarterback. He is just so fast and athletic, but he is mentally processing things a little bit slower, and it kind of neutralizes some of that. That's why he's a day 2 prospect for me. He has a high floor, but is probably a year or so away from being an all-around good linebacker, and he'll need to go to a team with a great linebackers coach to get him comfortable reading quarterbacks, get him more disciplined in zone coverage. There are flashes, though. The ceiling is high on the right team, and if your team gets him, there is a lot to be excited about there. He is going to be great for some great defensive coordinator to mold. So next up, might kind of surprise people. I think I'm a little higher on him than most, even though I understand him to be a kind of a fan favorite after the playoffs. Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech, number 10, 6'1", 233 pounds, so a little bit smaller, but he was a quarterback in high school, 4-star recruit. His freshman year at Virginia, he was a quarterback, he was a running back, he was a tight end, receiver, he was everything, and then he switched to linebacker at Texas Tech in 2022. The way he plays on defense shows how much he benefited from playing offense. His instincts are remarkable. That is what jumps out the first. He rarely looks lost. It feels like he is just always in the right place at the right time. He's just one of those players who reads the quarterback's eyes, reads the quarterback's body language at an elite level. And sometimes he is pre-snap, he is putting his teammates in the right place because he sees something that pure defensive players can't see. 11.4 run stop percentage, which is great. It's about 90th percentile for context. It's very physical, technically sound. 10 forced fumbles since 2024, 5 interceptions. He has the bend to rush the passer, lining up as a stand-up rusher on the edge, even though that wasn't something he majored in. And I like how he talks about physicality. He led the Big 12 in tackles in 2024 with 127, which was the most of anyone at Texas Tech in over 20 years. 2025, he was one place removed from going to the Heisman ceremony. Like 4 people go to the Heisman ceremony. He was number 5, which is pretty insane for a linebacker, because above him were 3 quarterbacks and a running back. It's pretty insane for any defensive player to get there. He was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, very articulate with the media, clearly emphasizes the physical parts of the game, comes across as a great teammate, very focused, confident player. He was a team captain for 2 years, which I think is a big deal. He is somewhat undersized, like I said. He's definitely, he can be kind of washed out by more mobile guards and other big blockers. That is kind of, just a reality of a smaller linebacker. Some teams are going to have certain thresholds that he may or may not cross. He has special teams experience. He could be a day 1 contributor on early downs and special teams down, especially, if you look at him as someone who is a little undersized, you might think, well, if he tests well athletically, then we can afford to consider him a 3-down kind of linebacker. He's not the fastest. He's not going to be covering really athletic tight ends one-on-one. Ultimately, he is probably a 3rd-round player. But, if his 40 time ends up being solid, if he tests well athletically, I could see that going up a little bit. I would be happy if my team were to take him in the 70s-ish is where I'm looking at him. Definitely think he's a top 100 player, but I'm curious how the league is going to see him. He's one of those players that the media loves because he was so fun to watch in the postseason, but I'm just not certain that the rest of the world is going to buy into that. So kind of in a similar tier, again, another one that might surprise people is Kyle Lewis from Pitt, number 9, 5'11" and a half, 225 pounds, so on the shorter side, 32-inch arms, which is long for his height. He's a redshirt junior, 3-star recruit out of New Jersey, state champion in high school. He ran the 400 in track in high school despite being significantly larger than other runners. He said that he is not the type of person to say no to his coach, and his coach asked him to do it. That's pretty telling because the 400, if you're not familiar with it, it's essentially a legal torture method of children. I mean, it's terrible. The 400, it shouldn't exist, frankly. It's remarkable to me that a football player could be told to do that. But hey, at least he's coachable, right? He had a lot of opportunities out of high school, notably Penn State. Decided to go to Pitt. 6 interceptions in the last 2 years. Great coverage in the box. Pretty good in the slot as well. He really lit up the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl was where I think he got on a lot of people's radars because he's so athletic. And, he had a couple interceptions in the one-on-one drill where as a linebacker, you really don't have the advantage. You're lucky to get a couple pass breakups because you're by yourself, and that's not the reality of a defense. On a defense, you might be covering the outside of a player's route and someone else is covering the inside, or if you get to a certain depth, you now have help. You can read the quarterback better because you don't know exactly where he's going to throw, and you know what it would look like for him to throw in your direction. But he got 2 interceptions in that drill, which is pretty unheard of. So I think that got him on a lot of people's radar. He had 2 forced fumbles. He's explosive. He changes direction like a slot corner. He can rush the passer reasonably well. He got 7 sacks in 2024. Pretty solid for an off-ball linebacker. Great run defense for his size. He plays really aggressive. He comes across to me as the highest energy player on the field. That's what I love so much about him. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. He's talked about how obsessed he is with getting interceptions. He wants the ball in his hand. He seems to be a real leader on the defense at Pitt. He's always directing his teammates pre-snap. He's more of a will linebacker, could be seen kind of as a nickel, not really going to fit neatly into any position. And he may struggle in the box at times on rushing downs. But, this is kind of where the NFL is going, right? They want athletic players that they can turn into, hybrid nickels / linebacker / safety. I think about Derwin James in that role. I'm not saying he's Derwin James, just right now defensive coordinators are really valuing versatility, and I think he has a lot of it. I don't know what his 40 time is going to be. I think it may not be the most impressive thing, but his playing speed is really good. He's clearly a big film study guy. He's always on top of tight end routes. The preparation is on a completely different level from how his coaches talk about him. And I think this is a ceiling raising player that fits well into modern defenses. He's going to be great in a couple years. He may end up being a later pick. He may end up being a day 3 pick just because teams, I think, are really afraid when it comes to taking smaller linebackers. And I understand that, but I would be happy with him taken around the 100 mark. I'm not sure that he's a certain top 100 player, but I would absolutely understand why a team would take him there. Player I thought I would be higher on, I thought I would have him, at the beginning of the year, I certainly had him over Kyle Lewis, is Josiah Trotter, number 40 from Mizzou, 6'2", 237 pounds. He played at West Virginia, then he transferred to Missouri in 2025, redshirt sophomore. It's honestly surprising to me that he's not returning to college. I feel like he should. I missed 2023 with a leg injury. That could be concerning. I'm not entirely sure about the details there, but he's a downhill run-stopping type of linebacker. He's great at shedding tackles, strong legs, quick redirection, reads the blocking scheme really well, rushes the passer well, kind of a physical tone setter that energizes the defense kind of player, and every team needs a couple of those. His tape gives you confidence that he's someone who knows how to make tackles at the NFL level and that he just loves hitting people, right? And that's what you want out of a downhill kind of linebacker. He is not going to be drafted to be used in coverage. That's a reality with him. He is there for running downs, which is kind of rare now because defensive kind of favor versatility and the ability to play every down. I just think a lot of teams end up learning the lesson the hard way when they prioritize fast, small guys in coverage and then they neglect getting someone who isn't on the defensive line who is there to be a run stopper. And that's the role I see him filling. He has good foot speed. He has a great first step. He's explosive. He had a great year this year. First team all SEC. He's athletic. I don't think he's proven that he can really move backwards, flip his hips, and stay on the quarterback. Looks pretty uncomfortable in coverage, gets fooled by basic routes, and the matchup disadvantage opportunity for an offense is concerning. If he's put it against a tight end with shiftiness or real route running abilities, yeah, he's not going to hold up. But that's not why you're drafting him, right? He plays hard. he makes a tackle a lot of the time because he's willing to chase down a play on the opposite side of the field as him. That's the kind of attitude you need at linebacker because they are as involved as they make themselves be. They're as involved as their instincts allow them to be in terms of getting themselves in the right place as the play is developing, but also in terms of, you know, if you're assigned on one side of the field and the ball goes to the other side of the field, are you willing to sprint at a deep angle and potentially prevent an explosive play? Are you willing, you know, it's just one of those things that it's easy to ignore because if an explosive play happens on the opposite side of the field, well, it's not your fault, right? But his willingness to be involved, I think is a big deal. I think he could be a Sam linebacker on an odd front defense, raise the run defense floor of an NFL team. Got a lot of development to do before he can be considered an all-around good NFL linebacker. But I think a team that takes him will be patient with him in that regard and will be happy with his niche as a run defender. So the last player I'm going to talk about today is Anthony Hill Jr. He went to Texas, number 0, 6'3", 238 pounds. Going into this year, I thought he would take a bigger step forward than he did. You know, I expected him to be a top 50 borderline kind of player, and that's just not how I see him now. But, you know, he has shown a lot of really good flashes. He was a state champion in high school in Texas, has a track background. He became a starter at Texas in the middle of his true freshman year in 2023. He will be 21 as a rookie, so there is still physical development potential left. He can add some weight. He might get faster, more athletic. But this is a player with really ideal traits. He's tall, fast, great range, great core strength, fantastic grip strength, long arms. So the building blocks are there, you know, and he has solid pass rush ability for an off-ball linebacker type. He doesn't have the physicality you'd like for his size. Just a little surprising. He struggles to shed blocks. That was one of the things I was hoping he would improve this year, because you can improve that through, you know, improving your physicality, which is both the manner in which you play and how much muscle and how much weight are you carrying. But also, you know, you can get better technically. And I didn't really feel like he did, but he is such a good tackler. He is so effective against the run in open space. He will probably be, you know, a will linebacker type. 3 forced fumbles show that he has the peanut punch locked down. The problem is his coverage. He just doesn't have the instincts to be where he needs to be. He takes a longer time than is ideal to get to his mark. He's fooled by play actions to a frustrating degree, but he plays his best in big games. He has had a lot of clutch moments in really big drives. I think that's how he's gotten on a lot of people's radars. I have a hard time seeing him as more than a developmental pick. Now, with his traits, he could be an above average starter in a few years, but the floor is a lot lower than these guys that I'm putting ahead of him. And his traits are so good, better than a lot of the guys I'm putting ahead of him. He probably ends up going in the 3rd round, maybe even higher than that, just because of the traits. But he is not someone you can expect to be an impact player in his rookie year. So after Anthony Hill Jr., I think there is a bit more of a drop-off at this point. Everyone else I'm a little less sure of, but, you know, you have to keep in mind, linebackers are great special teams players, and so a lot of teams will be like, yeah, it's fine if they need time to develop. It's fine if, you know, they haven't like grown into their body yet. We need someone to act as a gunner. We need someone, you know, who can reliably make tackles on kickoffs, whatever it is. And, you know, linebackers are really good for that, and a lot of them have special teams and experience. So keep that in mind and understand that this class is deep enough that you will be able to get guys with starting upside, you know, potentially into the 6th round. And I think that's really exciting. So definitely come back for part 2. I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you to my members. You guys saw this first. As always, let me know what positions you want me to cover next. I will be covering 1 through 15 for linebackers. So if there's someone that I haven't talked about, you can let me know in the comments. I believe I have my list solidified, but I'm definitely open to the idea that I might be missing someone. But I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys next time.